Hi, welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors, the interview show dedicated to get us up close and personal on what drives authors, where they get their ideas from, and the things that keep them going. I'm DC Gomez, an indie author, and come and join me in these fun conversations.
Salutations, everyone. I'm Miracle Austin. I'm a young adult, new adult author who loves writing horror and supernatural stories, free verse poems with little mini stories as well, and also longer works such as novels. I will cross genres as well. And a good example where you'll see a lot of diverse writing is in my first collection, Boundless. And basically, it's a gumbo mixed of diverse works. And I've selected 12 little pieces. They're not very long at all. And I'm just going to start out with those. And the ones that I'm going to read to you, I had a little list here. Here it is. I'm going to start out with Pins, Exchange, Dishonorable Path, Transform Restrictions, Crooked Shadows, Broken, Invisible Ones, Infinity, Wingless, Alone, 1958, and my last one for your entertainment will be What If. Okay, let's get started with Pens. And just to tell you a little bit about Pens, Pens, I wrote this several years ago, and it was first published in 2013 on an e-zine. So it was my very first published piece, and I was so excited because I had so many rejections. So let's get started with some readings. And thank you so much for listening in advance. Pens. Forgotten ones fill these streets. They sit inside their caged porches, watching drive-by horror scenes. Little broken girls ride their bikes in aimless circles. Watch out! I see an Aqua 65 Chevelle flying from out of nowhere and speeding so fast that flames flicker from its tires. Will the driver stop this time? Keep on watching. No rewind buttons. Screams carry the leaves in cold winds. Delayed 911 responses over and over again. Gunshots, stabbings, suicide Sabrinas, aborted baby Janes tossed into dumpsters, only to become lost souls. Tears rain down. Skyscraper weeds conceal this world. No fairy tales dreamt here, only nightmares. Exchange. It's a little mini story here. Dana Juniper only had 5 minutes left until her shift change. She'd just worked a double. As she walked towards the break room to clock out, she heard an announcement over the intercom. Code green. She froze for a moment and then rushed towards the hospital corridor. Rows of bloody gurneys with mangled bodies lying on them rolled in. Dana saw her ex. He yelled out her name. She walked towards him, staring down at the tan and royal blue speckled floor until she reached him. His face and clothes were saturated with ebony, slimy gunk. I'm sorry, Dana. She frowned and looked into his red, watery eyes. Why? For what I did tonight. And this. He rose up and clawed her bare arm. Crooked shadows. No one believed me, but they do. They really do exist. They live down there, deep down, under the floor, way below, behind that rotten, chained up wooden cellar door. At nights, I hear their barking moans and scratching against the cement walls. I hear their cold whispers climb up the vents and feel them tiptoe down my spine. I saw them once, I tell you. Bobby Brewster next door, triple dog dared me to walk down and peek through the cracked wooden cellar door. So I did. What I saw was most terrifying. Hunched and curved over transparent gray, twisted shadows. I tell you, don't go down there. Way below, deep down, behind that rotten, chained up wooden cellar door. It's been 13 weeks now, and Bobby has not returned home. His pictures remain posted in all the grocery stores, and nailed on lampposts. They lured Bobby in 'cause he didn't believe me, and he went back alone. I know they're still down there. They live there. They wait. They pace up and down the dirt floors, waiting for the next one to recruit into their family. One more. Just one more. Transform restrictions. Within my tight cocoon, I live in a dark world. Locked windows and doors. They're all bolted down with rusty screws and tangled razor barbed wires. I dream of experiencing a cool breeze dancing on my blank face. My tight cocoon restricts my dreams. I long to shatter my cocoon into 1,000 pieces with a sledgehammer, blowing them into an Oklahoma twister. Yet I don't possess the strength to commit the act. So I retreat back into my dark chamber. I don't know freedom there. As time passed, I noticed a small ray of sunlight reflecting off the ceiling. Too afraid to follow what was awaiting me outside, I closed my bloodshot, swollen eyes and ignored. Sharp, poisonous thorns encircle my extinction internally. The days grew longer, and sunlight that I first noticed off my dark ceiling grew larger, to the point where my cocoon split in half. Uncertain of what to do, I found myself sliding down and falling out of my broken cocoon. To the outside world of unfamiliarity, blues, yellows, sweet chocolate, cinnamon, and peppermint decorate this new world. So I stretched my folded, shredded wings and took off flying before I reached the busy ground. From there on out, I flew from one place to another. For the first time, I chose my own path with no painful consequences. I tell you, I flew and flew. The gentle winds carried me whichever direction they wanted. High, low, left, right, sideways, and upside down, like a navy blue angel. No complaints. I breathe and taste everything. I'm fearless to make any choice I wish. I'm not willing to exchange or compromise my freedom to anyone again, ever. This is my time to reclaim who I once lost. I thank you for sharing what I can forever do without. Broken. Warning: this work was inspired after watching a true documentary, Bullying. It is a graphic and illustrative work of society's many problems. It was written to serve as a form of realistic awareness. Being bullied is real and happens everywhere to many, and some remain silent for various reasons. I hope this piece will inspire someone to reach out for help or take safe and a positive stand. I wish that I had stood up more during my junior and high school years. Broken. Friends don't exist in my world because I'm part of the nobodies. You know us. The bull sharks swarm around me daily, preparing to rip out pieces of my flesh. Their wicked giggles bounce down the hallways only in my direction. Mr. Hart, sixth grade science teacher, and Miss Love, sixth grade history teacher, join in the party with their plastic smiles. They slide on their dark shades while I'm thrown up against lockers. Extra on game nights, held underwater until I'm almost lose consciousness. Walking in the nude towards the gym teacher's office again because they hit my clothes. Cutting another layer of my hair because of a wad of gum or crazy glue cemented inside my hair. Scooping dog feces out of my shoes for the 50th time. Arrows pierce my back daily, sometimes 3 or 4 at a time, as if a large bullseye target was permanently painted on my back. Ongoing visits to the ER for broken teeth, arms, and ribs. The doctor questions me, but I continue to lie and share how clumsy I am. You don't know what they really do to me if I ever told the truth. So please don't judge me. Tearing me apart in there is their priority. Last night, I decided to help them out. My parents found me the next morning as my 60-pound limp body swayed in the early sunrise over their bedroom balcony. Invisible ones. The days are always long, nights worse. They walk by with empty expressions painted on their lonely faces. I watch, yet no one watches me. I count the shadows on the ceilings, hoping time will move into the next day faster. It runs the same as any other ordinary day. I sit 365 days. I wonder, will this year be different for me? Probably not. It never is. I stand in the middle of the room. They always walk through me, as if I'm a ghost. What if I am a ghost? Am I real? I just keep on watching day and night. Maybe someone will see me tomorrow. Infinity. Full moon last night, so was I. I stared in the smeared mirror with broken edges. I wiped it with my wet sleeve. The bathroom's dim sapphire light flickered off and on as flies swarmed above me. I could feel my arms touching both sides of the filthy walls. Small droplets of sewage oozed out of the broken faucet. No fresh water there or in the dark stained toilet. My shirt and pants were both saturated from earlier. I peeled them off and buried them deep into the overflowing trash behind me. I wiped down my wet footprints with the coarse paper towels. My claws finally retracted, as well as my blood-stained fangs. I opened up the window with one glance. As my arms rested close by my side, I flew back into the maroon sky. I soared effortlessly, with my glistening black wings spread wide open and eagle eyes on my next prize. Wingless. We all make choices. I made mine. Dismissal of future consequences served as my golden ticket to do what, when, and whom I wanted. Once upon a time, I defined myself as a free bird. I flew in and out of countless bedroom windows from the west to the east coast, London too. I collected personal souvenirs along the way. No cages could imprison me. I slipped through the tightest bars and masquerade balls with drizzled lies until the call came. On that day when the first snowflake danced down my car's windshield, as I was told my life adventures would need to be postponed. My extracurricular activities ushered in my finale sooner than I anticipated. No more dates or dancing on stages while lip syncing to the 80s dance hits. Phone calls stopped. My so called friends abandoned me without any hesitation, including my best friend. Now I wait, all alone, in children's sized PJs that would fit a 10-year-old while my hospital bed swallows me up. Each night, I'm afraid to look at myself in the mirror because I don't know who's staring back at me. I smashed all the mirrors in the house with a hammer 3 months ago when I saw a frail creature painted with sores and fish scales all over its face and naked body. Sometimes I notice a feather or two on the floor before my mother sweeps them up. Her cries echo through the halls each morning from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. I know this will be my last summer to watch the Ladybug family play outside my window in their treehouse. The prison I swore that would never surround me found me. Someone once asked me if I had my life to relive, then what would I have done differently? I tell you, everything. Everything. Alone. I drove straight home that day. I just knew I would find my happy there. So I searched under the bed. Nothing. I flung my closet doors open and shoved the clothes back. Nothing. I stared outside and blew the fluffiest clouds away. Nothing. I saw Cupid. I begged him to place me on one of his love arrows to shoot me up into space. He granted my wish. Once I landed on one of Saturn's rings, I asked Aphrodite for advice. I ended up falling back down and landed in a black rose garden covered with 1,000 thorns. I realized that I had pushed her away. I poured oil all over her feathers of love. I locked her up in a cage of misery. I never made it right. So she figured out how to fly. 1958. As soon as our fingertips kissed, you were mine then and in all of time. And last one. And I tell you, this one right here was inspired by listening to the late amazing Prince. What if? I woke up this morning, peered out of the window. My vision was a bit fuzzy, so I wiped my eyes and refocused once more. This is what I saw and heard. Murky, oily skies, countless bird wings blowing into the breeze, motionless stallions under rotten willow trees, butterflies flopping around in saturated sewage ponds, people roaming up and down the streets. No conversations, only hateful reactions. Police sirens twirling with empty cars. acidic snowflakes falling and burning holes in the rooftops, babies crying, the sun, moon, and stars all lassoed up, one by one. Total darkness. Then the music stopped. And that's it. And you can find more in Boundless. Thank you.
Welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. Today we have the fabulous Miss Miracle Austin, who just gave us some incredible readings, and I have chills as you were reading some of those pieces. I was completely not prepared. I'm not a horror kind of reader, so I don't never know what to expect. I always think blood and gruesome, but the whole psychological part of this is amazing. I was like, woo! Tell us, where these stories come from? You talked about Boundless. Give me a little bit more.
Okay.
Bring us in.
You in. First of all, Boundless was never, ever supposed to be. Okay. Several years ago, DC, oh my goodness. I found myself facing a very personal trauma. And I was in a very, very, very place. I discovered a writing group online. And I tell you what, if I wouldn't have discovered that writing group, I don't know if I would be talking to you today. So yes, reawoken a lot of things inside of me. And I forgot how my writing was very therapeutic when I was younger. And I really didn't think much of it back then. So I just started participating in a writing group. They would give you different like themes, to write about. And so that's what I started doing. And then one of the participants, she made a comment to me. She said, you really should, get your work out there. And I didn't really think much of it at all. I said, no one's going to want to read what I write. It's not that good. So she kept pushing it. And so I decided to send it out. And I got lots of rejections. I can't even tell you how many. And I didn't know what to do with it. Some way, somehow, forgot who I communicated with. I decided to go ahead and put it all together. And that's how Boundless was pretty much born. And you'll also see a lot of the darkness of where I was. Some of it's reflected in Boundless, and it's intertwined within some of my stories as well.
There are some powerful messages. There's some underlying themes all mixed and intertwined. I like your definition of a gumbo mix. I like the fact that you're trying to bring all these different flavors to this.
Thank you.
So when you're looking at it, you have a combination is almost poetry / short stories / novels. What do you normally write?
I've written a few books, not many. I have 4 under my belt, but I usually write short stories. I love writing short stories and free verse poems with little mini stories intertwined in between them. So that's my favorite. But I do branch out, but that's my favorite, definitely, to write short stories.
A lot of people haven't seen that flavor. Usually we're used to 80, 90,000 words novels. So short stories have something powerful about them because you have to say a lot of things in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely.
How do you do it?
That's a good question. I don't know. I just kind of like have an idea and I figure out a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I know I got to make it quick. Sometimes I got to make it under a page or just a few pages. So I just try to compound everything and get the most important pieces that I want my readers to hear, to see, to feel, all those senses. And I just try to make sure I have all those important elements, and I just go with it. It's done, once it's written, after all the edits, of course. I just try to get the main pieces in a short, contain it. I guess I should say I have to contain it a lot more versus when I have more freedom when I'm writing, a novel.
You have said you are a young adult writer. What is your definition of that?
Well, basically writing stories that reflect teen issues, also the ages, different things that, when I write, I reflect back on my younger self. So I try to definitely imply some of those things. And depending on, the time span of where I'm writing, I try to incorporate, necessary elements that would pertain to a particular element. But mainly dealing with a lot of teen issues that they deal with and face on a daily basis.
So your young adult is definitely teenager oriented. I've met authors who young adult is usually 18 and higher, the 18 to 25 category. So you're looking at much more of the teen and up.
You got it.
That is a
Thank
beautiful
you.
age. So, do you have a message that you have in your stories? Is there an overall arching theme, or do you have different things that you
You know
cover?
what? I have different things. I try to always plant a moral seed in my stories. It doesn't happen all the time, but I try to plant that so the reader will take something from it. Like, beware of this, beware of that type of lesson. So I do try to plant seeds and lessons for my readers. Not in everything, but I do try to make a point, and they can be different lessons, depending on the story.
I like the fact that you have them throughout. So, are they obvious, or do people have to find them? How are these lessons?
Some of them are like straight in your, right in your face. And then some of them are a little hidden. It takes, a little journey to get to it. You just have to just pay attention to the words and pretty much the path of where I'm going. But I don't try to make them that hidden, but I don't always try to make them, always that obvious as well.
And I like the mix that you carry in
Thank
there.
you.
Everybody has a different way. So some people might think quirky. Is it very lighthearted? I know you're writing horror, so it has a different dimension to it. But how do you see your craft in terms of how you're writing it?
Um, it's a spectrum. DC. It can range from extremely to dark to all the way to being very lighthearted. So it just depends on where I'm at, where my mood is, what I'm listening to in the background. If I have to have music, it just kind of depends on all those different variables. But I guess I can tell you I write on a spectrum.
So you told us you've been writing for a
Mhm.
while. What was the first story you
Oh,
wrote and how long ago?
wow. That's a good question. Let's see. Wow, you see, I think my very first story I wrote, it had to be, I say late junior high, early high school. It was a story about, I wish I would have kept it. You know how when you do things when you were younger, and I'm sure I tossed it out, but it was a story about a young boy. I think he was probably under 12 years old, and he was dying. And that summer with his best friend, he's never been kissed, and he wanted to experience his first kiss because that was going to be his last summer on Earth. So I remember writing that story, and I remember him, and I remember it was such a sad story. And I don't know where in the heck I got the inspiration from. I can't recall that now, but I just remember him and wanting first kiss. So I wish I would have kept it. Oh, I wish I would have kept it. I remember the folder it was in, but like I said, when you grow up and you are sorting through all of your old things, I'm sure it was tossed out long, long ago. But that was my very first one that I wrote.
From middle school, high school,
Yeah,
that is powerful. Like, I wish you would remember where that came from. Like,
I
wow, that's
know.
very deep and like
Right, it was. It was.
traumatizing.
It could have been. When I think more about it, it could have been a movie I watched, honestly, or maybe a song. Because I tell you, music inspires me tremendously. And so I get a lot of inspiration from music. And if you think about it, every song has a story. I use music a lot in my writing in different ways. So it could have came from one of those two. We didn't have a lot of entertainment back then as we do now.
I like that you pull from everywhere and bring it all into it because I think that's what real
Yes.
life is all about. Is a combination of our experiences. And usually writers tend to pull for all of that just to bring it to life
Mhm.
and give it a new flavor. So I'm glad that you brought
Thank you.
music into this. What motivated you to start
Yeah.
writing? And you started young.
Um,
So
I
what
think it
did it?
was
What
music
was
because
that
I tell
trigger?
you what, I'm an 80s girl. Let me just go ahead and put that out. Stranger Things Forever.
Nothing wrong.
So
Nothing wrong with that.
I used to like keep like a notebook. Trapper Keeper. I think you remember those. And I don't know, maybe they're back. I used to just write, and I would just write the lyrics down. And so that's kind of what, inspired me about words. That's when I first fell in love with words. I think for me it was the lyrics of songs. And of course I read some amazing books, when I was younger. But music was probably the biggest impact for me. So definitely that started it off for me.
You said you went through a very
Yes.
dark place in your life. What lessons can you give us out of
Oh,
that? What did you
that's a
learn and
good
how did
one.
you
That's a good
overcame
question.
that?
Don't be afraid to talk to someone that you trust and share what's going on inside versus, keeping it inside. That's very important. And know that there's different community resources that are confidential. out there and definitely utilize those. And you want to surround yourself also with, even if it's just a small, tribe that are positive, that are going to lift you up. And then also things that are going to, that you can do for yourself to lift you up that makes you happy. It can be the smallest things, but those are very important when you're dealing with something so big. I was able to have a supportive family, which was good, and a blessing. But I know it varies for all of us. So there are other resources out there that you can definitely take advantage of.
I think that's an amazing advice that most people kind of feel that
Mm-hmm.
my problem is not big enough
Yes,
compared to somebody else. Don't compare your problems to other people's, just feel your own and ask for
exactly.
help. I love it. So tell me, what is your definition of
Oh,
success?
that's a good question too. I think success for my writing world, I'm just going to focus on that. When I can write a piece and feel good about it and know that I want to share this with someone, hopefully a lot of someone's, and to hear feedback, whether it's face to face or an email, doesn't have to be a review, but just to hear someone, your work or your book really moved me, and this is what I got from it, and this is what I learned from it. That to me is success, and it means so much to hear that. And it also gives me fuel to continue to write, even if it's just one person that got something from it. That right there does it for me.
You have touched a soul,
Yes.
and that makes a huge difference. And it's a huge
Mm-hmm.
motivation. How do you overcome the fear of putting it out there?
Yes.
Because you said when you
Yes.
feel ready to,
Sometimes you're
sometimes
not.
you're not ready.
Sometimes I sit on it. I know I've sat on some works probably longer than I should. But then, DC, you just have to get to the point. When I first started doing this, I was so scared, but over time, I have, transformed myself to let go of that fear. And I know everyone's not going to like what I write, and that's okay. We like different flavors in foods, if you think about that. So it's pretty much the same thing when I think about it. And it's okay. And I just have to know when to let it go. And it's going to be okay. And some will enjoy and some may not, and that's okay. And just because they don't enjoy that particular piece, they may like something different down the road. So that's how I, look at it, deal with it in my own way, and I pray and I just let it go.
I like
Hmm.
that theory of letting go. Because sometimes we have to get out of
Yes,
our
you
own way
do.
to let go.
You so do.
How did you learn to
Oh,
overcome fear and actually let go?
you gotta believe in yourself. That's really important. I guess for me, you're asking some tough questions, but they're good. They're good questions, DC. I love them. Like I said, I pray a lot. That helps me quite a bit. And then, talking to my husband, he encourages me. So he's one of my biggest cheerleaders. That's probably the two major things for me. That's how I deal with it.
And
Yes.
those are huge, strong points. And sometimes we take them for granted. So we do need to encourage ourselves. And when other people do it, is
Yes.
even a bigger blessing. So the fact that you can do
Thank
both is
you. I
amazing.
appreciate that.
So do you have a
Oh,
favorite author?
that's tough. There's a lot. Okay, well,
You can have
and
multiple.
this isn't gonna be like a shocker once I once I throw out a few names, but Stephen King, of course, R.L. Stein, Shirley Jackson, Maya Angelou. Oh, there's so many more, but those are off the top of my head that I can think of. That's really, influenced me, inspired me to write.
And they're all very connected to
Mm-hmm.
their craft and how their work affects
Yes.
people, which is beautiful because you
Thank
do the
you.
same thing. You're always creating an experience for your reader. So I can see how they have influenced
Oh, I
your
appreciate
writing.
that, DC. You say things so beautifully.
Thank you. Tell us, what projects are you currently working on
Okay.
now?
I'm working on, and it's been really slow, with everything going on in our world currently. I'm working on probably going to be like a novelette. I don't know if it's going to transform into a novella, but it deals with some adult themes. I'm working on that one. And it's going to be a collection, short stories, similar to Boundless, but different in a way because of the themes that working on. So I've been working on this, DC. Oh gosh, probably for a few years because I'm always pushing it back because I didn't know really what to do with it. I just had these pile of writings. Well, not a pile. It's a small pile, but I just had a pile, and I just didn't know what to do with these. So I just kind of just stuck them in a corner. So I decided to finally to do something with it. So that's what I'm working on. It's been a slow process, but that's my current work, and it's titled Decayed Secrets.
Is the fact that you brought it back, is the fact that you're going to work on it, is the fact that the
Mm-hmm.
journey doesn't stop, that is
Yes.
so powerful. Because every once in a while we have those stories
Yes.
and we just put them aside and never think about it. And then we read somebody else's books like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, that was my idea.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
glad you're dusting
you.
it up and
Thank
doing it now.
you. I appreciate that.
I'm excited. I'm waiting to see what
Okay.
you're going to come up with next. For a brand new author, an inspiring author, what advice would you
Oh,
give them?
goodness. A few things. Definitely, you want to read. Reading is so important to become just a stronger writer. Definitely read. And I would encourage you. I mean, I know I love horror and supernatural. And I read a lot of that. I watch a lot of it, on Netflix and Hulu and movies and etc. But also be willing to open yourself up to different genres. You would be amazed if you read a mystery book or a sci-fi or what have you, or a comic. And the thing about that, the magic about when you open yourself up to different genres and different experiences, you are allowing yourself to be more creative, and your mind starts really working those creative juices, and you never know how your ideas are going to connect from one topic to another topic, and you can just something amazing can come out of that. So I definitely recommend that. Also, definitely you want to have a small tribe that supports you. That is very important. But what's more important over that is believing in yourself. You definitely want to give yourself things to inspire you, whether it's like little quotations or little things you write on a sticky note to keep you going. That's very important as well. Knowing that rejections are going to come. So preparing yourself for that, and knowing that it's okay if you get rejections, and it's okay if you get a lot. And when you're like, oh my gosh, thinking that you're the only person in the world receiving rejections, just do a little research and you'll be surprised how many, successful authors are not so successful authors have received buckets of rejections, but they kept going because they believed in themselves and they wanted to share their work, with others. So those are probably the main things I would recommend. Also, expose yourself to like book festivals and conferences, and introduce yourself and meet different authors and different genres as well, because that's really important to talk to those who have walked or are currently walking that journey. And then there's things that you can gain as a new author or new writer as well.
We're definitely in a community that is very
Yes.
sharing and very giving. So people
Mm-hmm.
should definitely take
So
advantage of
agree.
that. So, my dear friend,
I'm
are
ready.
you
Go
ready for
ahead.
what's coming?
I know it. I
We're
knew it
doing
was
lightning
coming.
round. Okay.
Ooh,
Early
night
bird or night
owl.
owl? I admire night owls because I'm such a morning person. I'm like, wow, you guys are amazing. But
Okay.
here's a little tougher
All
one.
right.
So, if you could be a villain in any Disney
Ooh,
movie, who would you be?
that's tough. This is a hard one, DC. I guess the Wicked Stepmother, Snow White.
Why?
That's the first thing. I always thought she was interesting and cunning, and also there's more to her story than just what's what was portrayed. So I know there's a deep underlying reason or reasons why she's so wicked. So yeah, definitely Wicked Stepmother.
I'll take. If
Oh,
you had a theme song, what would
a
that be?
theme song just oh, okay. So many. Oh my gosh. Love is a Battlefield, Pat Benatar.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a
There's a
good
lot, but I'm
one.
gonna go ahead and go with that
Nice.
one.
So here's your
Oh
last one. Let's
boy.
see how you handle this one. If they were making the story of your life into a movie, who will play you?
All right. I'm gonna go with this because I love her. Janet Jackson.
That's a good one.
Thank
I
you.
like, I like. So, Ms. Miracle, do you have any closing remarks for us? Anything you want to share before we
Um
go?
Also, I just want to share that I know I talked about Boundless, and I read quite a bit from Boundless with y'all. I also have a trilogy, and I just wanted to mention that doll trilogy. And it's a young adult supernatural love story that deals with so many different themes, from being bullied, jealousy, hate, loyalty, depression, suicide, magic, shapeshifters, all that. Also, when I was talking about different resources that you can reach out to help, there's so many out there. In the back of Boundless, I have a list of helpful resources with names and numbers that the reader, if they want to share or if they need to reach out to, it's a diverse list. So know that there's always help. If you don't have immediate help within your family or your friend circle, know that there's others out there that can help you. So, and know that dream big always. I think Oprah Winfrey said something along those lines. And know that you are incredible and special, and you have a lot to give to this world. It's okay not to have a huge group of friends. It's better to have a small group that you know that you can depend on, and always believe. And I think that's probably, I'll stop, but those are just a few things I wanted to share with you, DC, and I thank you for this opportunity very, very much.
So where can we find you? So if our readers are looking for you, you're giving us so much advice and so
Thank you.
much
You can
wisdom. Where
find
can
me
they
on
find you?
Amazon, of course, and also my website, www.miracleaustin.com. You can also find me there, and I'm also on Facebook, Miracle Austin Author, and Twitter and Instagram at Miracle Austin 7, the number 7. You can find me there as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited. I'm so excited the listener got to feel and hear and experience not just your works, but everything that comes with you.
Oh,
So thank
thank
you
you,
so much,
DC. I
Miracle.
appreciate you so very much, more than you'll ever know.
Oh, thank you. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for joining us in another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. We appreciate you and stay tuned for another episode. Thank you.